Take a slow breath in and let it drift out again like a quiet ripple on a still pond. Now let your thoughts begin to loosen at the small movements of the day, the sound of the city, the hum of what must be done tomorrow. All of it softens, fading into the background like mist dissolving in morning light. We begin our journey not in the rush of the present, but in a slower world, the world of shadows, water, and stone, a place that has waited for us, patiently, for 1,000 years. Imagine yourself standing beside a long river. It moves slowly, wide and silver under a pale moon. Mist rises from its surface, folding the landscape in layers of white and grey. The mountains around you are quiet shapes, their outlines gentle, as if drawn by a single slow brush. A faint breeze stirs the air. You hear bamboo leaves brushing together, a soft sound like whispered conversation. The wind carries the scent of wet earth, of wood smoke from a distant village. Somewhere far off, a night bird calls once, then silence returns deep and unbroken. This is where our story begins. In Imperial China, a land ancient even when the rest of the world was still young, it is a world ruled by order and ritual, where every movement of the body and every thought of the mind follows the rhythm of something greater. The empire is vast. It stretches across mountains, rivers, and deserts, its borders held together by belief. Belief in the Emperor, the Son of Heaven, whose word binds the sky to the earth. In this quiet world, time moves differently. It does not rush forward, it circles like the seasons, returning again and again. Listen carefully. Can you hear it? The faint clatter of a cartwheel on a stone road, the murmur of a farmer guiding an ox through the fields, the soft, regular sweep of a brush writing characters on silk. And these sounds are not loud, they are steady like breathing. Everywhere the same rhythm of life repeats: obedience, respect, tradition. Each person knows their place. The emperor commands as the officials serve, the scholars teach, the farmers till, the craftsmen shaped the merchant's trade, and the women keep the home. Above all stands the idea of harmony, that peace can exist only when each person accepts their role. To question it is to invite disorder, and disorder is to invite suffering. It is an idea as vast as the empire itself, and as quiet as the river that carries it. Now imagine walking slowly through a small village. The air is still. Houses of clay and wood line the narrow path. Smoke curls lazily from low roofs. Children chase each other with sticks, their laughter brief and soft before it fades into shyness. An old man sits beneath a tree, his hands folded, his gaze steady on the path that leads to the fields. Nothing here rushes. The day unfolds with the sun and closes with the fall of darkness. A rooster announces the dawn. The farmer rises, ties his belt, and steps into the mist. He does not think of the past or the future, only the work that waits for him: to plant, to water, to harvest. The rhythm of his life is the rhythm of the earth. In a nearby town, a scholar wakes to the sound of a gong. He lights a lamp, sits before a scroll, and reads the words of Confucius. Lines written centuries before, copied again and again by hands like his. He reads of virtue, of duty, of filial piety, the quiet strength of serving something beyond oneself. The lamp flickers and the ink glistens faintly as he writes. Somewhere beyond the fields and towns, in the marble halls of the Forbidden City, the emperor prepares to receive his ministers. The palace is still. Every servant moves with practiced care. Every robe, every word, every bow is measured, graceful, and precise. Here, silence is not emptiness. It is the sound of discipline. Outside the palace walls, the empire stretches endlessly. Villages, forests, mountains, deserts, and all of them connected by invisible threads of obedience and belief. But tonight, we will not look for power or politics. We will not measure kings or count battles. We will listen to the stillness between them, the spaces where ordinary lives unfold quietly beneath the sky. Take another breath. Feel how slow time becomes when nothing demands it to move. The air of Imperial China carries a strange calm, a balance between beauty and hardship. It is a place where art is born from patience and order from restraint. Every brushstroke in a painting, every step in a tea ceremony, every bow before an elder, they are all parts of the same conversation, spoken softly across centuries. The people here do not ask the world to change. They ask only to live in harmony with what already is. If you walk further, you will find a courtyard, its walls worn smooth by time. There, under a mulberry tree, a family sits for the evening meal. Bowls of rice and vegetables, a little tea poured carefully into clay cups. They eat slowly, their movements unhurried. Outside the gate, a dog curls against the wall, half asleep. It is simple, and it is enough. Far away, in another province, a silk weaver lowers her head over the loom. Her fingers move with perfect memory, the threads crossing, forming the fabric that will one day glimmer on the shoulders of an official or a noble's wife. She does not see that future, nor does she wish to. She is content with the sound of thread against thread, the steady rhythm that fills her days. Everywhere, lives are like this. Small, measured, repeating, but not empty. For in repetition, there is peace. In duty, there is belonging. And so the centuries move on quietly, without drama, without hurry. Dynasties rise and fall. Names are written, forgotten, and written again. But the river continues to flow when the mountains continue to stand. The same wind that brushes the bamboo tonight once touched the robes of emperors and the faces of children chasing dragonflies in summer fields. It carries no memory of rank or wealth, only the scent of the world as it was. As you listen, you may begin to sense how fragile the present moment really is. The lives that once filled this world were not so different from ours, filled with worry and hope, with the small routines that make a life feel whole. But here, in the quiet of history, those emotions have softened. They have become whispers. The world that once struggled and shouted now rests peaceful and still. Perhaps that is the lesson of this long journey into the past, that even the grandest empires end not with a cry, but with a sigh, dissolving gently into memory. So let the centuries carry you now. Let the dust of history settle softly around you. There is no need to understand or to remember or to judge. You are simply drifting as the river drifts, as the stars drifted, as time itself drifts through the silence of the night. And in that stillness there is something beautiful. Not in power, not in glory, but in peace. The past is not a distant country. It is a quiet room waiting within you. When you open its door, you find not ghosts, but reflections. Gentle echoes of what has always been. So rest here a while in this calm between centuries. The bamboo still whispers. The river still moves. And somewhere, far beyond the mist, the world sleeps beneath a silver sky. The rigid order of imperial life. The mist of time settles again. The river of memory moves on, slow and constant. Now, as the morning light begins to rise over the tiled roofs of the old empire, we step quietly into the heart of its design. The order that held millions of lives together. In this world, every person has a place. It is not a question to be asked. It is a truth that is accepted as natural as rain falling on stone, as certain as the sunrise. Each soul rests in its appointed space, fixed like a star in the emperor's sky, and together they form the pattern that keeps the heavens still. At the very top of that great pattern sits the emperor, the Son of Heaven. He is more than a man. He is the link between earth and the divine. The laws that govern the people are said to flow from the heavens through him and into the world. He does not rule by strength alone, but by the belief that heaven itself has chosen him. This is the mandate of heaven, a quiet, invisible thread that ties the throne to the cosmos. So long as the emperor governs with virtue, the rains will fall, the rivers will flow, and the people will live in peace. If he fails, if greed or cruelty cloud his heart, then storms, droughts, and rebellion are seen as signs that heaven has withdrawn its favor. For the common people, this idea is not something they question. It simply is. The emperor sits in his distant palace, and through his presence, the world finds its balance. Beneath him lies a vast web of officials, men of rank and learning, each responsible for the order of the realm. They are the ministers, the governors, the magistrates, each one bound by ceremony and hierarchy. They wear robes marked with embroidered symbols, each stitch declaring their position, their duty, their loyalty. They speak carefully, bow deeply, and write their reports with brushes that glide over silk. Their work is endless, but it is also the foundation of stability. For these men, life is a series of rituals, letters sent, seals pressed, decisions made within the boundaries of law and tradition. They do not act in haste, they act in accordance. Their value lies not in originality, but in obedience to the order that sustains them. Below the officials come the scholars, the learned men who live among books and ink. They are not rich, nor are they powerful in a worldly sense, but they are the keepers of wisdom, the voices that interpret morality and virtue. In the quiet glow of oil lamps, they copy the words of sages from centuries past. They study the Analects of Confucius, the writings of Mencius, the records of dynasties long gone. To them, these words are not history. They are instruction, a guide for living a righteous life. Their rooms are sparse, a desk, a brush, a few scrolls, a pot of tea. Outside, the world changes slowly, but within, the rhythm of learning continues, steady as a heartbeat. They write poetry not for fame, but as a form of reflection, a way to express gratitude, humility, or peace. In their verses, the moon rises gently over rivers, the plum blossoms fall with quiet grace, and the human heart finds calm in nature's patterns. These scholars are often poor, their robes simple, their homes small, yet they are respected for they carry knowledge, and knowledge is the bridge between the people and the heavens. Beneath them, the great body of the empire lives and breathes. The farmers. They are the pulse of the land, the ones who coax life from soil. Their fields stretch far beyond the city walls, across valleys, along rivers, into the distance where mist meets the horizon. Before dawn, they rise with the first sound of roosters, their bodies moving with quiet purpose. They do not think of rank or order. They think of the day's work ahead, the planting, the watering, the harvest to come. Their hands are calloused, their backs bent beneath the weight of sun and season. They know hardship, and yet their endurance sustains the empire. For all the officials, the scholars, the soldiers, all depend upon the farmer's labor. The farmer's homes are humble, walls of mud and straw, a roof that creaks in the wind. In the evenings, families sit together under the light of a single lamp, sharing rice, vegetables, perhaps a small dish of fish or meat on rare days. The children listen as elders speak softly about rain, about ancestors, about the rhythm of life that never truly changes. There is peace in their simplicity. They do not expect to rise in rank. They live as their parents lived, and their children will do the same. To belong to the earth is both a burden and a comfort. Next come the craftsmen, those who shape beauty from the raw materials of the world. In towns and cities, their hammers strike wood and metal with patient rhythm. They carve, mold, polish, weave, and paint. Their art is both practical and sacred, serving temples, palaces, and homes. The potter's hands turn clay into vessels, smooth as river stones. The carpenter fits joinery so perfect that no nail is needed. The bronze worker pours molten metal that cools into dragons and phoenixes. Each creation is not just skill, but devotion, a quiet offering to perfection. These craftsmen rarely sign their names. Their work belongs not to them, but to the order of things. To create something beautiful is to honor the harmony of the world. Then come the merchants. They travel between towns, their carts heavy with silk, spices, and porcelain. They know the rhythm of trade winds and mountain passes. They speak in numbers, in bargains and exchanges. Though many grow rich, their wealth does not earn them esteem. In a Confucian world, profit is not virtue. To seek personal gain is to disturb the balance of selflessness and duty. And so, though they dine well and dress finely, merchants are often looked upon with suspicion. Their lives are mobile, unrooted like the road itself. They live between worlds. Respected for their usefulness, but distrusted for their ambition. Yet even they know their place in the grand design. At the very bottom stand those whose lives are not measured by choice. Soldiers, who march when called and fall when forgotten. Servants, who attend the noble and fade into silence. Entertainers, who make others laugh or cry, but are seldom remembered beyond the moment. Beggars, who drift through markets like shadows. And women whose existence is shaped by duty from birth to death. For women, life in the empire is quiet, enclosed. They serve fathers, then husbands, then sons. Their worth is measured by obedience, their grace by silence. In large households, the rhythm of women's lives follows the pulse of domestic ritual. Weaving, sewing, preparing food, tending the altar of ancestors. Within these walls, they find moments of peace. The laughter of children, the fragrance of blossoms in spring, the murmur of poetry shared in whispers. Though their world is small, it holds its own balance, its own kind of beauty. Beyond these layers of hierarchy, the empire itself moves as one vast organism. Every gesture, every greeting, every custom is shaped by the same principle: harmony through order. When a young man meets his elder, he bows low, hands folded, eyes lowered. When a family sits together, the eldest speaks first, the youngest listens. When a servant enters a room, They do so softly, without announcing themselves. These are not acts of submission, they are the structure of respect. To live well is to know where you stand. To speak with grace is to preserve peace. Obedience is not a punishment. It is the air everyone breathes. Each morning begins with ritual. Before the first light touches the eaves, sons and daughters rise to bow before their parents and grandparents. They offer tea, say words of blessing, and receive quiet instruction in return. In temples, monks strike wooden bells, their deep tones rolling gently through the dawn. In the villages, farmers open their doors to the sound of roosters, their breath visible in the cold morning air. In the cities, scholars cross courtyards paved with stone, their robes brushing the ground. Everywhere the day begins not with haste, but with reverence. This rhythm continues from birth until death. Children learn their duties as soon as they can walk. They are taught the virtues of patience, humility, and respect. They learn that family is a mirror of the empire itself, a small kingdom of order, where the father is the ruler, the mother the keeper, and the children the loyal subjects. In this way, harmony is not enforced by law alone. It is cultivated from within, tended like a garden, generation after generation. There are few who question it. For most, the structure of life offers comfort, a clear path to follow, a way to find belonging in the immensity of the world. From the highest minister to the humblest peasant, all are part of the same great design, woven together by custom and belief. And so as night falls once more, the empire sleeps under the gaze of its emperor. In every village and palace, in every courtyard and hut, the people rest in the certainty of their place. The stars above them mirror the order below. Each one shines where it must, neither brighter nor dimmer than it should. Together they form a pattern of peace, not perfect, but enduring. The world holds still. And in that stillness, the ancient order breathes quietly, keeping its balance through the endless passage of time. The taste of survival. The night fades softly into pale light. Mist lingers low over the riverbanks, and the sound of roosters drifts through the air, distant and patient. The empire wakes slowly, as it has for centuries, without haste, without noise, simply turning from sleep to motion like a tide moving toward the shore. Every morning begins with small gestures. A door slides open, a pot is lifted. A spark becomes a flame, and with that, another day begins. The day of a farmer, a craftsman, a scholar, or a servant. The empire feeds itself on rice and silence. For most, that is enough. Food is not a celebration, but a continuation, a way to remain steady through the turning of the seasons. In humble homes, scattered across the countryside, a thin porridge warms over low fire. It is pale, barely more than water and grain. The steam rises quietly, and as it curls into the morning air, children stir from their mats, their eyes still heavy with sleep. They eat in stillness, each spoonful small, each motion calm. There is no rush, no chatter. The taste is simple, a faint echo of the earth itself. Meat is a memory of festivals, a rare luxury for most families. When it appears, it is shared in tiny pieces, savored slowly as though to stretch joy itself. On those days, the household feels different. Even the air seems to carry a quiet contentment, a brief reminder that hardship is not eternal. But such days are few. More often, meals are shaped by necessity: rice, millet, vegetables, a few greens gathered from the edge of the fields, sometimes a bit of tofu or a handful of preserved roots from the winter jar. These are the flavors of survival. Plain, enduring, without excess, without waste. Tea becomes the comfort between hunger and work. It is brewed gently, its steam curling like breath against the cold air. Tea is safer than water, for rivers and wells are not always kind. Boiling makes it cleaner, and warmth makes it kind. In the quiet hours before dawn, men and women hold their small cups close, sipping slowly. The tea carries the taste of the hills, the faint bitterness of leaf and soil, the sweetness that follows. It awakens the body not through speed, but through calm dash, a slow return to awareness. Across the empire, the rhythm of eating and drinking binds lives together. It is a language without words, a ritual without prayer. Every sip, every bite is an act of gratitude. To the earth, to the season, to survival itself. In cities, the air smells different. The scent of street vendors floats through narrow alleys, noodles simmering, sesame oil heating, cakes of bean paste browning on hot stones. Here, food carries stories of trade and distance, of spice carried by caravans, of salt drawn from coasts hundreds of miles away. But even in the cities, there is restraint. Food is to nourish, not to indulge. The empire teaches moderation in all things. The fullness of life lies not in abundance, but in balance. As the morning deepens, the empire becomes a moving body. From the palace to the farthest field, each person steps into their place. The scholars open their books. The craftsmen light their fires. The farmers walk into the light that spreads slowly across the land. In the fields, the earth glistens with dew. Bare feet sink into the damp soil. The first plough breaks the surface. An ox snorts softly, pulling forward, its slow breath rising in clouds. The work is steady. There is no rush, for the land does not reward haste. Each movement must be patient, each gesture measured, each effort repeated day after day, season after season. The sound of the hoe meeting soil, the soft murmur of men calling to each other, the creak of wooden yokes. Together they form a kind of music, low and rhythmic. Above them, the sun climbs quietly. It gives light without favor, touching emperor and peasant alike. At midday, the workers rest in the shade. A bamboo mat spread on the ground, a gourd of tea, a few cold rice cakes wrapped in leaves. The breeze moves faintly through the reeds. They eat, they breathe, and for a moment time seems to stand still. But soon the work resumes and the fields move again with life. Rows of green extend toward the horizon, each stalk a promise of harvest. That harvest, when it comes, does not belong fully to the farmer. From every yield, the empire takes its share, taxes for the palace, for the officials, for the army. The collection is orderly. Officials arrive with scrolls and ledgers. They weigh, they record, they take. To speak against it is not permitted. To protest is to vanish. And so the farmers bow their heads, offer what is demanded, and continue. They know that silence is survival. When night comes, the day's labor rests upon their shoulders like dust. They wash their faces in basins of cool water, sit beside their families, and eat another bowl of porridge, this time heavier with salt. In the flicker of the oil lamp, their faces seem carved from the same clay they till. They do not speak much. The sound of the wind against the roof is conversation enough. Their lives are not empty. They are steady, woven into the fabric of the empire like the warp and weft of a loom. To endure is its own form of faith. Far away, in grander houses, the meal looks different. Porcelain bowls gleam under candlelight. Silk robes rustle softly as nobles lift their chopsticks. The dishes are many. Steamed fish, duck glazed with honey, pickled lotus root, delicate sweets of rice flour and sugar. Yet even in these halls of luxury, restraint is taught. Confucian virtue does not praise indulgence. To eat beyond one's need is to forget harmony, so even the rich dine with grace. Small portions, slow gestures, each bite a quiet ceremony of respect. For them, silk also whispers of their place in the world. Clothing, like food, marks destiny. The poor wear hemp and cotton rough to the touch, dyed in the muted shades of the earth, grey, brown, pale green. These fabrics breathe easily in summer, keep warmth in winter, and bear the stains of work without complaint. But silk is another story. It gleams like water under sunlight, smooth as breath, light as a whisper. Only those of rank may wear it. Its threads are spun by hidden hands, dyed by careful craftsmen, woven into patterns that speak of status. To wear silk is to be seen. To wear the wrong color is to risk punishment, for even colors belong to the emperor. The shades of yellow, golden, pale, imperial, are reserved for the throne. Crimson for the court. Green and blue for lesser ranks. Each hue a signal, each thread a declaration. To the outsider, such rules may seem small, but in a world built on order, color is not decoration, it is obedience made visible. In the women's quarters of noble families, the scene is quiet but intense. Here, beauty is a discipline, and discipline is destiny. Young girls sit by windows open to the morning light. Their feet are wrapped tightly in cloth. The binding begins earlier before bones are fully grown. Each day, the wrapping tightens and the pain deepens. It is said that a small foot is elegant, a sign of refinement, a mark of grace. But grace in this world is learned through suffering. Mothers teach their daughters to endure it silently. The transformation of bone and flesh is slow, each step a lesson in restraint. In time, pain becomes posture, and posture becomes beauty. When they walk, they move like the willows in wind. Measured, delicate, each step a gesture of control. In the eyes of their world, this is dignity. In the silence of their hearts, it is survival. Outside, the fields remain the same. The oxen plod forward. The river flows past terraces of green. The empire breathes through these patterns of endurance. Each person carries the same truth. That life is not a ladder to climb, but a circle to continue. What one receives, one gives back. The harvest feeds the empire, the taxes feed the system, the silence keeps it all in motion. And so through the centuries, this rhythm repeats. The taste of survival becomes the taste of life itself. Rice, tea, salt, and wind. The sound of fabric against skin, the smell of earth after rain. These are the small certainties that hold the world together. In winter, when frost paints the fields, white families gather indoors, sharing warmth beneath heavy quilt. A pot of soup simmers slowly, made of what remains from the autumn stores. The sound of it bubbling fills the room, a reminder that even the simplest meal carries comfort. In spring, shoots rise again, and the people return to their fields. The cycle begins anew. There is no need for words of hope. The act of planting is itself a promise. In summer, the air hums with insects, the rivers swell, and sweat darkens the backs of those who labor. They pause only to drink water from clay jars, their reflections trembling on the surface. In autumn, golden stalks bend beneath the weight of grain. The sound of harvest fills the air, the rustle of stalks, the call of voices, the thud of full basket. It is the quiet triumph of endurance. Everywhere the same pattern unfolds. Rich and poor, noble and peasant, all live within this steady pulse of sustenance and silence. At the end of the day, when darkness gathers again, lamps flicker in every corner of the empire. The same rice, the same tea, the same slow exhalation of breath, and above them the same unchanging stars. The empire does not ask for joy, only for endurance. It does not promise comfort, only continuity. And so through every field and every home, through every bowl and every sip, a quiet truth endures. That survival, in all its simplicity, is its own kind of peace. The Scholar's Dream. Night lingers a little longer over the empire. The lamps have burned low, and the scent of oil still floats in the air. Somewhere, a single candle waits beside an open scroll, its flame breathing softly each time the wind sighs through the lattice. This is the hour of the scholar, when the world is silent and the heart still listens. There was, in this ancient land, a bridge so narrow and uncertain that few could cross it, yet every ambitious mind dreamt of it. It was called the Imperial Examination, the pathway from obscurity to honor, from poverty to the delicate safety of rank. To pass was to be remade. To fail was simply to continue the same life, only a little wearier. For most, the dream began early. A child would sit at a low desk, a brush taller than his wrist, copying characters again and again, until the shapes entered his muscles like breathing. Parents watched quietly from the doorway, believing that every stroke carried a fragment of the future. Education was more than study, it was devotion. To learn was to polish the heart until it reflected virtue. And virtue, said the sages, was the only road to harmony. As the boy grew, his lessons deepened. He memorized the Confucian classics, each line a thread of morality woven through the centuries. He learned of filial piety, of loyalty, of balance. He learned how a ruler should rule, how a son should serve, how a man should conduct himself even when unseen. The words were ancient, but within them lay a quiet promise that wisdom could lift a person beyond the accidents of birth. Years passed in the rhythm of study. The scholar's world narrowed to the space of the page. Outside, seasons changed. Inside, he recited verses until his voice became the echo of his own memory. His inkstone wore smooth from use. His fingers darkened with the dust of ground ink. Sometimes he looked up from his desk and saw the moon through the paper window, a perfect circle, silent and whole. He would breathe once, then return to the text. For those who sought the exam, discipline replaced everything else: family, comfort, even rest. Dreams of rank were not dreams of wealth or pleasure. They were dreams of stability, the still water of respect. When the announcement of the next examination came, the villages stirred. Young men prepared to travel to the prefecture city. They packed brushes, ink, food for the road. Some were guided by fathers who had tried and failed. Some went alone, their steps uncertain, but full of purpose. The journey itself was a meditation. Miles of dusty road, inns where the walls whispered with other students' prayers, temples where travelers stopped to bow before statues of sages and ancestors. At every step, the dream grew heavier, as though knowledge itself pressed upon their backs. And then finally, the exam hall appeared, a vast compound of walls and gates, rows upon rows of narrow stalls made of stone and wood. From above, it looked like a hive. From within, it felt like a cell. Each candidate was assigned a space barely wide enough to sit and lie down, a board for a desk, another for a bed. Once the doors closed, they would not open again for several days. Food was passed through small openings, water came in earthen jars. The only sound was the scratching of brushes, the occasional cough, and the endless flutter of paper. The exam was not merely a test of knowledge, it was a test of endurance, of calm, of spirit. The questions asked for essays on virtue and governance, poems on nature and harmony, commentaries on the classics. Every line had to follow strict forms, every argument had to echo approved wisdom. To write too boldly was dangerous, to write too timidly was failure. The ideal answer was like good tea, clear, balanced, without bitterness. Hours passed, then days. Men wrote until their hands trembled. Some fainted from hunger, others from exhaustion. A few simply closed their eyes and did not wake again. The hall remained quiet, the rhythm of brushes continuing without pause. When the final bell sounded, the scripts were collected, stacked carefully, carried away to be judged by unseen hands. Outside the gates, families waited. Mothers and fathers, brothers and wives. They watched the doors open and the weary men step out, some smiling faintly, some silent, some walking as though in a dream. The results would come later. Days, weeks, sometimes months. Until then, the scholars returned home. To wait in patience, reciting the old words once more, to quiet the restless mind. In villages across the empire, the same pattern unfolded again and again. For every candidate who passed, thousands did not. A few names were chosen, written in neat black strokes on the red list. That hung outside the palace wall. Crowds gathered to read it. The air filled with murmurs, then with the faint sound of sighs. For those whose names appeared, a robe awaited, a robe of honor, its color soft, its fabric fine. They would bow before officials, receive their title, and step into a life of service and stability. For the others, there was only quiet, a lifetime of teaching in small schools, copying texts for local patrons, or returning to the soil they had hoped to leave behind. Regret was not shouted, it was worn like a garment, fading slowly with the years. Yet even failure had its dignity. To have studied was to have lived with purpose. To have sought wisdom was itself a kind of success. And so fathers encouraged their sons encouraged their own, and the cycle of study continued, binding generations together in the same quiet hope. In the evenings, the scholar who failed might still open his books. He would light a small lamp, pour tea, and read aloud to the empty room. The words comforted him, as if the sages themselves were sitting nearby. He did not curse the system, he simply accepted the stillness that followed ambition. Across the empire, scholars like him formed a hidden thread. They were the conscience of the land, gentle, reflective, believing in order, believing in words. Their writing filled the margins of history. Poems left on the walls of inns, letters to friends written in careful brushstrokes, essays that few would ever read. But through these writings, the voice of the empire softened. In one poem, a scholar wrote of the moon reflecting in a cup of tea. In another, he described the sound of rain on bamboo at night. They found meaning not in triumph, but in awareness. That life, like ink, fades slowly, and that peace lies in acceptance of that fading. Back in the capital, the few who had passed the examinations walked through the marble courtyards of the palace. Their footsteps echoed softly. They wore the robes of officials now, but the discipline of study still shaped their movements. They spoke with measured tone, their gestures deliberate. Each word, each bow was part of the same long ritual of order and respect. From the outside, they had succeeded. From within, they still dreamed of clarity. Many spent their years copying decrees, reviewing petitions, writing reports that would vanish into archives. Some rose higher, most did not, but all remained faithful to the rhythm that had carried them there. The empire valued constancy above brilliance. To serve was not to shine, but to endure. And so the scholar's dream was both a blessing and a burden, a path that promised movement, but led always back to stillness. In the quiet of his study, the official might pause over his desk. Outside, the courtyard lanterns swayed. He would dip his brush, trace another character, and for a moment remember the boy he had once been. The boy who looked up at the moon and believed that knowledge could change the world. Perhaps in some small way, it had. Through his discipline, his calm, his silence, he upheld the balance that kept the empire whole. The exam halls themselves aged with time. Their walls darkened with soot and rain. The ink stains of generations mark the wood like ghosts. But every new season brought new candidates, each one walking the same worn path, each one carrying the same quiet hope. In the end, the examination was not only a bridge between classes, it was a meditation on patience. It taught a nation that learning was an act of faith, that effort mattered even when unseen, and that the pursuit of virtue was its own reward. And so the scholars continued. They taught children the strokes of the brush, recited lines of poetry beside fields and rivers, and kept the language of wisdom alive. When night returned, they looked again toward the same old moon. Its light fell on roofs of tile and thatch alike, on the palaces of the successful and the cottages of the forgotten. The moon made no distinction. It shone with quiet impartiality, a symbol of the peace that comes when ambition finally meets understanding. Perhaps that was the truest lesson of the scholar's dream, that knowledge is not a ladder, but a mirror. To study is to see oneself more clearly, to learn where one stands beneath the heavens. And when that understanding arrives, even failure becomes calm. So let the candle burn lower. Let the ink dry upon the page. Somewhere, beyond the walls of time, 1,000 scholars close their eyes, their brushes resting beside them. The empire sleeps. The dream continues. Softly, endlessly, like the turning of a page in the quiet night. Law, fear, and the empire's iron heart. Dawn breaks, but it does not rush. Light slides carefully across the roofs of the capital, turning the tiles from grey to gold, as if even the sun must show respect. The empire breathes in perfect order. It has learned through centuries of repetition that peace is not freedom. Peace is control, the quiet balance between movement and restraint. Every gesture, every word belongs to a pattern older than memory. To live within that pattern is to be safe. To step beyond it is to fall. The law surrounds everything, invisible but ever present, like the air or the sound of distant bells. It tells people how to dress, how to bow, how to mourn, how to think. There is a rule for the length of a robe, for the width of a sleeve, for the color of a belt. There is a rule for grief. How long one must weep, For a parent, how often to visit the tomb, how many days to wear white. Order is comfort, and yet it is also weight. The people carry it the way trees carry snow. Bending, never breaking, always waiting for spring. In the cities, officials record everything. Their brushes move across bamboo slips and paper, filling them with lines of law and decree. Ink becomes authority. A single mark can lift or destroy. The system is vast, each part connected by ritual, and report each action verified by a seal. Justice, in this world, is not about mercy. It is about balance. Where there is disturbance, punishment must follow, not from anger, but from necessity. Caning for the disobedient, branding for the deceitful, exile for the defiant, and sometimes, when the balance must be fully restored, death. The methods are exact, the records precise. The empire believes that through precision comes peace. Pain is not chaos. It is the final form of order. Confession, too, has its ritual. When words of guilt are demanded, they must appear -- even if they are drawn out by force. The law values completion over truth. A confession closes the circle, and a closed circle means calm. Those who serve the courts understand this rhythm. They do not question it. They perform it as a musician performs a score. The instruments are many: the bamboo rod, the written verdict, the official seal pressed into red wax. Each has its place, each is necessary, and so the empire maintains itself, not through kindness, but through unbroken continuity. Fear moves quietly through its streets, not in shouts or cries, but in the stillness that follows. Doors close early. Conversations end before they become dangerous. The silence of obedience fills the night. Spies move through that silence like wind. They are unseen, but always near -- neighbors, servants, travelers, sometimes even family. They listen not from hatred, but from habit. It is their duty to report what they hear, and duty is sacred. In tea houses, voices lower. In courtyards, whispers dissolve before reaching the walls. Children are taught early to speak with care, for the wrong word can echo farther than intended. This is not cruelty in the eyes of the empire, it is maintenance, the steady preservation of harmony. Within the palace, the air is even thinner. Power lives here, but so does fear. The emperor, the son of heaven, sits at the center of the world, and yet the walls around him are high, the corridors endless. Eunuchs move softly through those halls. They carry messages, secrets, rumors. They serve and they watch. Their loyalty is bought not with trust, but with necessity. For having been remade, they belong wholly to the palace. They know who enters, who departs, who hesitates when bowing. They speak in quiet voices near the throne, their words as thin as silk. A glance from them can change the fate of a minister. Even the emperor is not untouched. He rules through a net of information that both guides and binds him. He knows that power, once questioned, is fragile. So he rules through distance, commands delivered on scrolls, punishments issued through others' hands. The ruler, too, is a prisoner of his role. He is watched by history, by heaven, by the very system he embodies. In the women's quarters of the palace, the pattern repeats. Silence is the first lesson taught. Speech is measured, laughter quiet. The empress holds dignity like a mirror, perfect, reflective, untouchable. Concubines live within layers of etiquette, each movement choreographed by centuries of example. Outside the palace, ordinary women carry the same expectations, only in smaller rooms. Life is a cage gilded with duty. A daughter obeys her father, A wife obeys her husband, a widow obeys her son. Each stage of life is a change of master, not of freedom. Marriages are arranged by families, names exchanged through intermediaries. Astrologers read the heavens for signs of balance. Compatibility is measured in birth dates, not affection. Love is a quiet dream, spoken only in poems. In homes across the empire, wives rise before dawn, prepare food, tend the hearth, weave, sew, bow. Their work is unseen but essential. They hold the order of the household, as the emperor holds the order of the state. To speak out of turn is to shame one's family. To question is to dishonor one's ancestors. And so silence becomes a virtue, a soundless form of strength. Yet within that silence, there is understanding. Women know the rhythm of their world. They find small spaces of peace. Gardens behind walls, moments by the window with a book of poetry, a single glance of shared recognition with another. These are the quiet freedoms that survive beneath the law. The law itself touches every life differently, but none escape it. A farmer pays his taxes not to a man, but to the system. A craftsman must register his tools, a merchant his goods, a scholar his writings. Every act of living has a corresponding rule. Even the dead are governed. Funeral rites follow a strict order: the number of days of mourning, the kind of incense burned, the thickness of the mourning robe. Grief must not exceed its boundary, lest it disturb harmony. The empire teaches that when each person fulfills their duty, the world remains whole. But duty can also erase the self. A person becomes a role. A role becomes a regulation. Those who cannot bear it sometimes vanish into the mountains, becoming hermits or monks. They seek a quieter law. The law of nature, where the sound of water replaces the sound of command. But even they are remembered as part of the empire's story, proof that order allows the existence of contrast. Rebellion, however, is another matter. Rebellion is not allowed to exist, even as an idea. To raise one's voice against the throne is to call down the full weight of law. Those who do, the desperate, the idealistic, the lost, know their fate before they begin. The empire does not punish individuals alone. It punishes the memory of them. Families are erased, sometimes 3 generations, sometimes 9. Names are struck from records. Graves are leveled. It is as if the person never was. And yet, through all this, the empire does not think of itself as cruel. It believes it is maintaining the natural order. Heaven above, ruler below, subjects beneath, dash, dash, each fulfilling a duty that keeps the world balanced. Punishment in this logic is a form of cleansing. It restores symmetry where human error has caused imbalance. When the people witness it, they are reminded of boundaries. Fear becomes education, and education sustains peace. This is the empire's iron heart. A heart that beats not with emotion, but with rhythm. It has learned to survive through discipline. To change too quickly would be to collapse. At dusk, when the courts close, officials bow and depart. They carry home the weight of decisions made in ink. In their gardens, they listen to the wind moving through bamboo and tell themselves the same thing their fathers once said, that justice is difficult, but necessity is simple. Night spreads across the capital. Lanterns bloom one by one along the streets. The watchman strikes his gong, marking the hour. Behind shuttered windows, families sit in silence, each within the circle of their own obedience. A mother instructs her child, "Do not speak too loudly. the walls may have ears. The child nods, not fully understanding, but remembering. Fear passed down quietly becomes custom, and custom becomes law once more. Yet, within all this restraint, life continues to unfold. Rice planted, roofs repaired, poems written under candlelight. The empire's strength lies in its ability to persist, to carry on even when hearts grow tired. The same stars that watch the throne also watch the farmer's hut. The same moon that shines on the execution ground also falls gently upon a newborn child. Heaven's gaze is equal, though the earth below is not. There are moments when the emperor himself cannot sleep. He walks the long corridors of his palace, the sound of his footsteps echoing softly. He passes painted screens of dragons and clouds, passes guards who lower their heads. He thinks of the vastness of his realm. Mountains he will never see, rivers whose names he barely remembers. He wonders if the people fear him or the idea of him. He wonders briefly whether order and peace are the same. But dawn will come and the questions will fade with it. He will take his place on the throne again, and the ritual will begin anew. The empire endures because no one dares imagine it otherwise. Its iron heart beats slowly, steadily through the centuries, and it does not hurry, it does not rest. And beneath that rhythm, millions of quiet lives continue. Each breath measured, each movement observed, each silence understood. Law and fear move together, two shadows that never part. They shape the people, and the people, in turn, sustain them. From distance, it appears serene. An empire of stillness, of obedience, of beauty, carefully arranged. From within, it is the same, only closer, the peace of control, the order that never sleeps, the iron heart beating softly beneath silk and ceremony, holding the world in place, so that it does not fall apart. The woman who became the dragon, Empress Wu Zetian. The air of the old empire hangs heavy with incense and time. From the distant mountains, morning mist drifts across the plains, and the sound of temple bells carries through the fog. The world turns slowly, each dynasty leaving behind its shadow. In this world of unbroken rule, where men sat upon thrones of jade, and women moved behind curtains of silence, one life unfolded differently. Quietly at first, and then with the weight of legend. Her name was Wu Zetian, a name that, even centuries later, still stirs the memory of awe and unease. She was born into a prosperous family in the early 7th century during the height of the Tang dynasty, a time of poetry, of art, of confidence. Her father served the court, a man of means and understanding. Her mother came from a noble line. In her childhood home, books were not forbidden to daughters, and so from an early age, Wu read, listened, learned. While other girls were taught the proper tilt of the head, the softness of tone, the art of modest silence, she was drawn instead towards to history, to the measured logic of power. The world did not prepare itself for such a girl. It expected grace, it received intellect, it expected obedience, it found curiosity. She watched the men around her, their gestures, their alliances, the subtle exchanges that built or broke a career. She learned not through rebellion, but through observation. Knowledge, she understood, could be more dangerous than any sword. When she was still young, her beauty and her poise drew attention. She was chosen to enter the palace. as a concubine of Emperor Taizong, the great ruler of early Tang. To enter the palace was to step into a labyrinth, a world of red walls and endless rules where every glance was measured and every whisper could shape a destiny. Within those walls, Wu was one among hundreds. The emperor was distant, and his gaze rarely returned to the same face twice, but she did not despair. She learned. She served with quiet discipline, memorizing the habits of the court, the hierarchies of eunuchs, the flow of rumor and influence. When the emperor died, custom decreed that his concubines, who had not borne him sons, must leave the palace and enter a convent. And so Wu took the vows of a Buddhist nun. Her head was shaved, her robes plain, her world narrowed to silence and prayer. But silence can also be a kind of waiting. The empire was changing again. The new emperor, Gaozong, was Taizong's son, a man who had known Wu in his father's court. He visited the temples often, and there, among the rows of chanting nuns, he saw her again. The memory stirred, the thread of fate was rewoven. Wu returned to the palace no longer a forgotten concubine, but a woman whose mind was sharper than before. Gaozong brought her closer, and the court began to whisper. She listened, smiled, and waited for the whispers to turn in her favor. In the great palace of Chang'an, ambition was a quiet fire that burned behind silk screens. Wu understood the rhythm of that fire. She moved carefully, speaking little, observing much. Her intelligence set her apart. When Gaozong sought counsel, her advice was measured and precise. She understood policy, the weight of law, the balance of court factions. As her influence grew, so did resentment. Rival consorts plotted, ministers muttered. But Gaozong trusted her, perhaps more than he trusted himself. When his health began to falter, it was Wu who handled affairs of state, at first informally, then with authority. She read reports, issued orders, appointed officials. The court bowed not only to the emperor, but to the woman who sat beside him. Her rise was not sudden. It unfolded slowly like dawn, imperceptible until the world was bright. When Gaozong died, Wu did not fade into widowhood. Instead, she became the power behind the next ruler, first as Empress Dowager, then as regent. Her sons sat upon the throne, but the empire listened to her voice. In time, the illusion of shared power dissolved. In the year 690, Wu did what no woman before her had dared. She claimed the title of Emperor of China. Not empress, not consort, but Emperor the single word that had always belonged to men. The dynasty she founded she called Zhou, a name chosen with care, for it echoed the ancient age of moral virtue. It was brief, but it was hers. The empire, at first, hesitated. A woman upon the throne disturbed the natural order. Yet the heavens did not send storms and the rivers did not rise. In time, the people accepted what had already become fact, that the mandate of heaven had found its way into the hands of a woman. Wu ruled with intelligence, discipline, and unshakable precision. She strengthened the bureaucracy, expanded the system of examinations, and allowed those of humble birth to rise through merit rather than lineage. In this, she changed the pulse of Chinese governance. For the first time, ambition was not the privilege of the aristocrat alone. The scholar from a remote village could dream of serving the throne through his learning and his pen. She surrounded herself with scholars and advisors, men who valued intellect over tradition, and she opened doors for women as well, appointing them to positions of learning and responsibility. Her court became a place of quiet brilliance, a reflection of her own mind. Yet power does not rest without shadows. The same intelligence that allowed her to govern also taught her the cost of security. She created networks of watchers, officials, eunuchs, secret police, to guard against betrayal. Reports flowed to her chambers each night, sealed, discreet, relentless. A whisper of rebellion was enough to send families into exile. A written criticism could end a career or a life. To her, this was not cruelty, it was necessity. The empire was vast, stability required vigilance. But to those who lived beneath her gaze, that vigilance felt like fear. Even so, the empire prospered. Trade routes stretched across deserts and mountains. Temples rose their bells, calling across valleys. Scholars debated philosophy in shaded courtyards. The arts flourished: calligraphy, painting, verse. The people, if not free, were at least secure. Wu's reign blended order with elegance. She understood the language of symbolism. Temples dedicated to her virtue were built. Inscriptions compared her wisdom to heavens itself. She commissioned great works of stone, massive Buddhas carved into cliffs, their faces calm and eternal. In their presence, her rule seemed destined, as if the mountains themselves had accepted her authority. The court continued to whisper, but whispers could not undo her. She ruled for 15 years as emperor, longer if one counts her years of regency. In that time, she saw the birth and death of alliances, the rise and fall of ministers, the shifting tides of loyalty. She learned to trust silence more than praise. Her evenings were quiet, filled with reading and reflection. She often turned to Buddhist texts, finding in them a sense of cosmic order, a structure that mirrored her own rule. She favored the image of the wheel. Turning endlessly, each spoke representing balance and cause. Perhaps she saw herself as part of that wheel, not above it, but moving with it, maintaining its motion through discipline. Time, however, does not pause even for emperors. Age came softly, like a shadow lengthening across stone. Her mind remained clear, but the body began to yield. In the final years, the court grew restless again. Old rivals returned in the form of her own blood, sons who wanted their inheritance, officials who longed for the restoration of Tang. In 705, the inevitable came. Her health failed. She was persuaded, or perhaps quietly compelled, to abdicate. The Tang dynasty was restored. Her reign, officially ended, was treated by later historians with caution and contradiction. Some called her a usurper, some a visionary. Time did not choose a single verdict. Instead, it allowed both truths to rest together, side by side, like the dual faces of a coin. When she died, she was laid to rest beside Emperor Gaozong in a grand tomb at Qianling. The entrance stones bore no inscription. Her name was left uncarved, as if to suggest that her story could not be confined to words or judgment. Centuries passed, dynasties rose and fell. Her tomb remained sealed, her memory preserved in rumor, record, and poetry. Even those who despised her could not erase her from history. Her rule had altered the imagination of a civilization. She proved that the throne, once thought to belong only to men, could bear the weight of a woman's hand. She taught that intellect, not birth, was the true measure of power. And though her methods were sharp, her legacy was clear. The empire she governed did not crumble under her rule, it endured. In later centuries, scholars wrote cautiously about her. Some softened their tone, calling her capable but ruthless. Others praised her reforms, her patronage of learning, her rare ability to hold peace through intelligence. Among the people, stories grew softer still. In the quiet of the marketplace, storytellers spoke of her not as tyrant, but as the woman who became the dragon, a symbol of strength in a world of submission. In paintings, her face appeared serene, neither stern nor gentle, but balanced, as though aware of the contradictions that shaped her life. And so her name remained. It traveled across centuries, carried in the breath of poets, in the margins of history books, in the imagination of those who dreamed of change. The wind still moves over the hills of her resting place. Wild grass bends gently, and the stones that guard her tomb catch the same sunlight that once touched her palace walls. The empire she once ruled has long dissolved into time, but the thought of her endures, not as judgment, not as glory, but as reflection. For in the stillness of her story there lies a deeper understanding, that power and virtue, ambition and restraint, fear and wisdom are not opposites, but companions. They circle one another endlessly as the heavens circle the earth. Wu Zetian's life was not a rebellion against her world. It was an extension of it, a new shape formed from the same clay. She did not destroy tradition. She transformed it slowly, precisely, until even the old laws seemed to accept her presence. And perhaps that is why, after all the centuries, her name still feels alive. When the moon rises over Qianling, its light touches her unmarked stone. No inscription is needed. The silence itself is her biography, calm, complete, and enduring. The woman who became the dragon sleeps within the mountain, and above her the stars keep their steady watch. The empire that once trembled at her command has faded into memory, but her story remains soft as breath, strong as stone, woven into the endless rhythm of time itself. The roads of civilization and the quiet end. The night unfolds slowly over the world, the same darkness touching mountains and seas, palaces and fields alike. Above it all, the stars trace their patient paths, each one a small reminder. That movement never ceases even when everything seems still. Civilizations rise and fade beneath those stars. Each believes itself eternal, yet all become part of the same long story. A story written not only in words or stone, but in the quiet lines that join one place to another. The roads of the earth, visible and invisible, carry the memory of every step ever taken. Far beyond the old empire of China, other realms shaped their own networks of connection, their own patterns of dust and destiny. Across deserts and mountains, over rivers and through forests, people built paths that outlived their makers. The Persian Road. In the ancient lands of Persia, long before gunpowder or compass, the royal road stretched across the heart of the empire. From Sardis to Susa, it ran like a silver vein through the body of a continent. Messengers on horseback galloped between stations, each one relaying the next, their shadows moving with the rhythm of empire. It was said that the king's word could travel faster than the wind, for the road carried not only men but certainty. Dust rose beneath the hooves, settled again, and the order of the world continued. Merchants followed their caravans heavy with spice, glass and cloth, They passed soldiers, pilgrims, storytellers, each carrying more than goods, carrying the pulse of thought itself. Along the road, small fires glowed at night. Voices blended, languages crossed and softened each other. The royal road became a thread, binding distant hearts to a single rhythm. The Roman highways. Far to the west, the Romans laid their own foundations of movement. Their stone highways crossed mountains, cut through forests, and stretched toward every horizon they could see. Each road was a statement of control, but also of faith in continuity. The stones were fitted by hand, layer upon layer. Gravel, sand, basalt, each chosen with care, each pressed until it became part of the next. Centuries later, many still remain. Grass grows between the cracks, but the lines endure. Through these paths marched legions, their armor catching sunlight, their banners silent in the heat. Through them also walked traders, poets, and those who sought a better life. At the edges of empire, the roads carried law and language, but also exile and return. They were arteries of both glory and fatigue. When the empire itself faded, the roads remained. Long after the marble crumbled, after the Senate halls grew empty. Peasants herded sheep across them, monks walked them barefoot. Travelers traced them without knowing, whose dream had laid the first stone, the roads of the Andes. Across an ocean, high in the thin air of the Andes, the Inca built roads that seemed to belong to the sky. Their paths climbed mountainsides, bridged chasms with rope and stone, and threaded through clouds, where even breath was precious. They built not for conquest alone, but for communication, for the movement of thought and offering, messengers called shaski. Ran those heights with messages knotted into chords, each color and twist carrying meaning. At dawn, their footsteps echoed. Against cliffs and valleys, their rhythm joining the wind. They needed no written language, their paths themselves were the writing etched upon the earth. When the sun set, they rested beside fires made of thin wood, listening to the mountains breathe. Those roads, too, would outlast the empire that made them, becoming silent veins of memory, half hidden beneath moss and time. The roads of thought in Greece. Across the seas of the west, where islands floated like stepping stones on the Aegean, the Greeks built another kind of network. Their roads were simple, their stones uneven, but their roads of thought. Stretched farther than any caravan, between temples and marketplaces, between schools and theatres, voices carried questions. What is justice? What is beauty? What is the nature of the soul? These were the pathways of philosophy, and they linked minds rather than cities. Socrates walked the narrow streets of Athens, his sandals worn smooth, his words weaving invisible bridges, from one generation to the next. Pilgrims traveled to Delphi for prophecy, to Olympia for games, to Eleusis for mystery. Their journeys became rituals of reflection. Each step along those roads brought them closer not to power, but to understanding. The Greek roads were small in number, but infinite in direction. They formed the mental map of all who would later ask the same questions. The Silk Road. Back in the east, within the embrace of mountains and desert, another road gathered all these stories and wove them together. It began under the Han emperors, stretching westward from the capital of Chang'an. It crossed the Gobi, touched the edges of Persia, and reached the shores of distant seas. It was called the Silk Road, though it carried much more than silk. Through it travelled merchants and monks, artisans and dreamers. Caravans wound through dunes like threads through fabric, their bells faint against the wind. They carried silk and jade, spices and glass, but also music, stories, and the breath of new beliefs. From the West came Buddhism, its teachings carried by travellers, who sought not profit but peace. From the East went silk and porcelain, symbols of refinement and continuity. Between them flowed conversation, a dialogue of centuries, quiet, steady, endless. The Silk Road was more than a path of trade. It was a map of connection, showing that even distant worlds are never truly apart. Every caravan that departed carried a fragment of one civilization into the heart of another. Along its length, cities rose and fell. Dunhuang, Samarkand, Kashgar. Their markets filled with voices, speaking a dozen tongues, their walls painted with the colors of belief. At night, travelers gathered around firelight, sharing food, water, and memory. Under the same moon, differences softened. The road itself became their common language, roads as veins of the world, seen from far above, from the height of mountains, from the patience of centuries. All these roads form a pattern like veins within the body of humanity. They carry not only goods or armies, but the quieter cargo of thought and intention. A road is both promise and memory. It tells where people have been and suggests where they might go. It is an act of faith, in connection, in the belief that distance can be overcome by effort, by trust, by the rhythm of steps. Some roads are paved with stone, others with dust, others with words, but all led eventually to understanding that no empire stands alone and no life is lived in isolation. The slow fading of empires. In time, even the grandest roots grow quiet. Deserts shift, jungles reclaim, storms erase the footprints of kings. The royal road faded into sand, Rome's highways cracked beneath weeds. The Inca paths slept beneath mist and moss. The Silk Road turned into memory, its markets swallowed by time, yet none of them truly vanished. Each remains in another form. In the shape of languages, in the spread of ideas, in the mirrored customs of distant peoples. The roads changed the travelers, and the travelers changed the world. The end of an empire is never sudden. It is like the falling of snow, soft, continuous, each flake small, but together they cover everything. At first comes silence, then reflection. The world learns to begin again. The road within. Every civilization at its heart seeks not only to expand outward, but to understand inward. The physical road connects places, the inner road connects moments of thought. A scholar copying a sutra by lamplight, a mason placing the last stone in a bridge, a mother teaching her child to write a name. ... Each continues the same unseen journey. They carry forward what others left behind. The end of one path is simply the beginning of another. Just as rivers join the sea, so the roads of history converge in the shared stillness of memory. The quiet end. Now the night deepens. The noise of centuries fades. To the faint rustle of wind through grass, the fires of the old empires have cooled, but their ashes glow gently in the mind's horizon. From Persia to Rome, from the Andes to Chang'an, the same truth remains that every stone placed upon another, every footprint pressed into earth was an act of hope. The roads of civilization were never only for kings. They were for all who sought to move forward to carry something precious. A word, a belief, a piece of light to another soul. And when we walk today, on pavement or path or memory, we walk those same routes again. The dust of Persia, the echo of Roman steps, the whisper of Chinese caravans all mix beneath our feet. History is not behind us, it is beneath us, supporting every quiet step. So now, as the story settles, you may rest. The roads continue, but they no longer demand your travel. They will wait, as they have always waited, for the next morning, for the next dreamer, for the next soft beginning. Breathe softly. The world has turned another page. The empire sleeps, and so can you.